Welcome to Mental Wounds Don't Bleed, sponsored by Coast JFCS, Heart Gallery of Pinellas and Pasco, and the Hobbs Foundation. Each year, there are hundreds of local children who, through no fault of their own, need an adoptive family because their biological family has lost all legal rights, and the children will live in foster care until adopted or becoming an adult or aging out of care. Most Heart Gallery children live in foster care for 2 to 5 years, and if they happen to come into care as an older child, their chances of being adopted are lowered due to common biases and generally accepted stigmas of being hard to handle.
You are sacred in a way.
It is my honor to introduce Dr. Raul Mehra, a trusted friend and advocate for foster children locally, statewide, and nationally.
You'll manifest some way.
Thank you, Patsy. Hi, my name is Dr. Raul Mehra, CEO and Chief Physician Executive of the National Center for Performance Health, based in Tampa, Florida, with a regional office in Gaffney, South Carolina. I've been actively practicing as a board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist for over 30 years. 23 of those years have been spent treating youth in foster care. Professionally, I have seen firsthand the medical, behavioral, and psychological effects of abuse, neglect, and abandonment on children from all walks of life right here in our own backyards. I've been asked by the Gulf Coast JFCS Heart Gallery of Pinellas and Pasco program to share with you thoughts related to youth in foster care. I am honored to do so. Patsy and the Gulf Coast JFCS team are tireless advocates for the youth in care, as well as foster parents and adoptive parents who are seeking to transform the lives of the many vulnerable citizens of our community. Specifically, my involvement in foster care began in 1997 when I served as the medical director of a group home in Tampa. I served in that capacity for about 14 years, and I continue to serve youth in foster care in multiple ways. I purposely share my professional journey with you. My involvement in foster care, with intention, I choose not to call it work, because for me it isn't work, it is a calling. This calling has been transformative for me both personally and professionally. Professionally, I am humbled that I have had the privilege to care for so many youth over the last 23 years. The personal experiences have been the most profound. I have met more than my fair share of well-meaning adults who back away when I tell them that I'm a psychiatrist. This goes with the territory. But if they inquire further and I tell them that I work with foster children, often I get the obligatory pat on the back and the saying, "You must be a special person," before the person runs for the hills. After thinking deeply about encounters like this, I reached a couple of conclusions that I would like to share with you. Understanding, of course, my conclusions are just that, mine. They do not belong to anyone else other than myself. Conclusion number one, your average person does not necessarily want to discuss the specifics surrounding foster care. By specifics, I mean why children are in foster care to begin with. The main reason in my mind for people not desiring to discuss specifics is because talking about things makes them real. If things are real, then we have to take ownership of them. It becomes easier to deny their existence. Human nature is to avoid at all costs talking or even thinking about painful emotional experiences, whether these experiences are our own or someone else's, especially when these experiences involve children. The complexity is rooted in the fact that emotional injuries cannot be seen because mental wounds do not bleed. Again, human nature says if we don't see it, then it must not exist. We know, of course, this thought process is fundamentally flawed at every level. For abused children, the physical wounds often heal but leave lasting scars as well as health complications which need to be understood as well to be treated correctly. Emotional wounds can cause significant impairment in our function and can even contribute to physical illness. Behaviorally, many abused children will act in ways that push people away, are offensive or promiscuous or unflattering. If the caring adoptive adult or parents are not strong enough to weather these storms and get the appropriate help, these well-meaning adults will cause more harm. One way to look at this is if you had a child suffering from cancer, what would you do to help this child get whatever it takes to have a normal childhood as well as the medical care needed to make sure he or she has every chance to grow up to be a healthy adult? A foster child or a child with cancer, both are suffering, in innumerable ways because of their traumas. However, I am directly and unequivocally stating that our children who have been the victims of abuse, abandonment, and neglect deserve a far deeper understanding of their plight. Not only a deeper understanding, but a more comprehensive call to action plan that elevates their status as humans. In my mind, there cannot be any greater priority. It starts with education. And if you're still watching this video, then you are here for the right reasons. If you explore adoption further, you may be asked if you would accept a child who wets the bed, or has a temper tantrum, or exposed to alcohol and drugs in the womb, or has a history of psychiatric hospitalizations, or potentially even fire setting, which is a rare event. Before you say no, please take some time to realize that any and all of these issues are there for a reason. And there are resources in place available to help treat you and these children to adapt to these concerns. Conclusion number 2, the special person is not me as the child is. I reflected on my experiences with foster youth and thought to myself, who really is the special person in this equation? It sure is not me. It's each and every child sitting across from me. I concluded early in my career that while I gave my full attention to serving the children, I was personally deriving way more benefit from these children than I could ever give them. My patients, these kids, have given me gifts of what it truly means to persevere, to be resilient, and to exemplify the endurance of the human spirit through the immense physical and emotional pain they experience, not just once in their lifetime, but multiple times. The children still get up out of bed every day, go to school, play sports, make friends, make honor roll, and go on to do great things. Often these children grow into adults who help change the world. Some well-known examples of adults who grew up in foster care and were adopted are, number 1, Dave Thomas, founder of Wendy's. Number 2, Simone Biles, Olympic gold medalist gymnast. Number 3, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple products with Bill Gates. However, the picture is not always so rosy. Here are some nationally accepted statistics offered by Whitney Cummings. Number 1, 80% of inmates incarcerated were in foster care at some point. Number 2, 40 to 50% of foster care youth become homeless within 18 months of leaving foster care. Number 3, 65% of children in foster care experience 7 or more school changes from elementary to high school. Miss Cummings, a nationally known writer, sums up things in this way. What she is not saying, number 1, being placed in foster care is the sole reason foster kids have a greater likelihood to end up incarcerated. Number 2, foster kids would be better off staying in their biological homes. Number 3, foster kids are troublesome delinquents who are bound to end up in prison regardless of their healing process. Number 4, we should feel sorry for foster kids and not hold them accountable for their actions.
Stay till the kids all graduate.
Things Miss Cummings is saying. Number 1, kids who enter foster care start life with a disadvantage. Number 2, regardless of whose fault it is, foster kids almost always fall through the cracks in one area of life or the other. Number 3, as a society, we are not intervening early enough. Number 4, this isn't just their problem, it's ours too. So now, with all that said, what can you do to help? It is our hope that you seriously consider adopting an older child, a teenager, or a brother and sister, or 3 brothers, or a family of 4 maybe, whatever is right for you.
Felt our joys and shed our tears.
State-sponsored adoption means the state will help provide for the child before and after you adopt, to include training, legal fees, medical and psychological treatment, college education, and much more. This information shared here today can be intimidating and frightening. However, together, we can make a difference and firsthand help change the trajectory of the lives of these children. Becoming a successful adopted parent is not just about offering a child a loving, safe home. It is much, much more than that. Your heart and mind should be open to personal transformation, because adoption is not about what you can give that child, but rather what that child can and will give you.
Thank you for considering adoption. You will find these children and information on how to adopt on our Heart Gallery page at heartgallerykids.org. Visit often and support us in our mission of connecting local children to families through state-sponsored adoption.